change, I think, in the church's recognition, there's a couple of reasons why this has happened and the statements made by the church around this. One, the church is an international church. In 1913, gosh, I suspect 80-90% of the church members lived in the United States when the church began its partnership with Scouting. More than a decade ago, the dominant language of the church became Spanish.
Interesting.
It stayed that way, and the disparity, I think, is growing, that actually Spanish is spoken by more church members than English.
I didn't
Well,
know
that process means that Scouting was, the way Scouting, the partnership in the U.S. allowed the LDS Church to choose the scout leaders. The charter concept was so key to the partnership because the church wanted to make sure the leaders they agreed with. That charter concept isn't used around the world, as I understand it.
Correct.
And it limited the church's ability to partnership in other countries because they didn't want to give control of the leadership over to another organization.
I see.
And so it's become more and more, for a number of decades now, it's become more and more challenging to talk about scouting in the church, and yet you have a larger and larger percentage, now probably more than half of the percentage, that program's not available to them to use because they're outside of the U.S. or Canada.
And then that motivated the church to develop a program that could go worldwide.
They're in the process of doing that. They're in the
Okay.
process of doing that, is my understanding from the announcement this week, is looking at how can we do that. And they started there on the varsity and the venturing level, my sense is, because even though we have the varsity program, you can see by the number of teams chartered worldwide, it's a very small number, that it hasn't been as successful in engaging boys into that program as the core scouting program. And the church recognized that there's a natural designation, a natural change that happens in boys at that age, that they want to put those things, they want something new. They're looking for something different.
Right.
So I think they felt that this is a place that they could change that dividing line and start with something different without disrupting the great tradition that there is in scouting.
And so, based on that, I understand everything you're saying about developmentally and then what's going on in other countries. For the younger boys, though, do you think that the church is satisfied that, that our programs fit with the church for now?
I think so. I think that they haven't changed that. I think that there's still a great tradition of it. Will it change in the future? I'm not in those councils, right? I don't think I can speak to that, but I can see, it's not surprising to me personally to see the change relative to the older boys. But even if, I don't want to stop there, though, because our discussion about ages and stages, I think is still relevant, whether you're in scouting or you're in the church. What boys are looking for in that 14 to 15 and 16 and up age. There's a couple more points that I wouldn't mind making about that.
No, we should. I just wanted to emphasize the fact that we still have Cub Scouting and Boy Scouting in the LDS Church, and they help get to these later stages.
Yes.